Ugh, another isekai. I'm tired of that.
It's bad. Anime.
Sup, bad boys? Here we are at Bad Anime with another unfiltered review. This time we're talking about the anime Seventh Time Loop, the villainess enjoys a carefree life married to her worst enemy. My god, what a title. This is a very new anime, just came out in 2024. We're going to talk about it throughout this video and decide if it's bad or if it's kind of good. And slight spoiler, if you listen to our podcast episode on this, it's kind of good. So let's start with a quick summary and take it from there, right? So the protagonist of this show is named Riche, and she kind of restarts her life in a loop 6, now 7 times at the start of this show, but she starts at the same point and ends at the same point, actually, weirdly enough. She starts at the point where her wedding gets called off by her then fiance, and then she kind of retreats in embarrassment and then, does some stuff for a few years. And then a few years later, she always dies in the same war, started by the same guy, which will come up a little more later. Through the first 6 times that she goes through this loop, she does something a bit different. The first time, I believe she was kind of a trader, and she kind of went into like a merchant's organization and learned how to trade and barter and sell and all that stuff, and then, died in a war. There were a couple other lifetimes that they glazed upon. One was a lifetime where she studied plants and learned how to, produce medicine with plants, and then, died in a war. So it always starts with her getting broken up with, always ends with her dying in a war. This is the loop that she's stuck in forever. And they have a lot of fun clock animations to accentuate that exact point. So in her 6th loop, before we get to the 7th loop, she is actually killed in a war fighting because she's a soldier in that lifetime, and she gets killed by this presumably villainous guy, Arnold Hine, who actually starts the whole war every time she's in one of her lives. In her 6th life, Arnold Hine actually stabs her and kills her. So that's her 6th. Her 7th, she reboots again, and that's the show we're watching now. She has no idea why she's being looped, but she knows exactly what happens in every one of her lives. So every time she gets reincarnated, she just, knows how to produce medicine from plants. She knows how to trade. She knows how to make a deal. She knows how to fight like a soldier. So all these skills kind of keep stacking up. So she kind of becomes this Renaissance woman character. A little OP, but we'll talk about that more in a bit too. But for the 7th time loop, things are extra quirky because she runs away from her fiance that dumps her, right? And she ends up running into Arnold Hine, the guy that killed her in her previous life and who started the war that killed her in her previous lives before that. She kind of has this confrontation with her fiance outside of this castle, and Arnold's really impressed by her fighting ability. So he says, "Hey girl, just marry me." So boing, there's the big catch for this 7th loop, is that she's marrying the guy that has killed her previously and starts this war every time. My initial thoughts on this show was, ugh, another isekai. They just make so many. But this one, I gotta say, they've done the isekai formula kind of right in that they've done it wrong, if that makes any sense. It's not exactly her waking up in a completely new world every time, but it's her reliving the same life, kind of like a Russian doll or a Happy Death Day. And I think that this is like a fun twist on the isekai genre, because we've been getting so much guy dies and he wakes up as a vending machine in a fantasy world, guy enters a video game world through a portal. I'm tired of that. I want more stuff like this that kind of experiments with the medium, puts us in a bit of a fantasy land with all this stuff going on, but does it in a really cool way that's like, oh, hey, this is just the same life she's reliving in the same world and she's experiencing new things in every life. Really like that, and it really kind of pulled me in. As for the characters, I like the complex relationship between the main characters, Arnold Hine and Riche, because Riche, died at his hands just in her last life. So it's very fascinating to understand, and it kind of is a cliffhanger every episode why Arnold kind of starts this war in the first place. And that's, I feel like, what we're going to learn in the show. And there's also this fun tinge of, is she going to fall in love with this guy? She knows the atrocities he's committed in past lives, but who knows? Maybe there could be a little anime-tinged romance in the air. And that's just in the first 3 episodes. They kind of give you a great exposition. They set you up really nicely for the rest of the show. And honestly, dug it. It takes a lot for me to try an isekai-adjacent show like this, but it truly kind of blew me away. The only real criticisms on it I have are, as I said earlier, the main character, little OP, little too strong. Obviously, she's lived 6 lives, so she's gained a lot of knowledge, and I kind of get that, but, she's kind of this perfect character, seemingly, and, I need a little bit more depth in her character. Maybe we'll get that in time. And also in the title of the show, which is, once again, 7th time loop, the villainess enjoys a carefree life married to her worst enemy. Yeah, it is the 7th time loop. Yes, she is married to her worst enemy, but she's not exactly a villainess yet, at least. So I don't exactly know where that comes from in the title. The last point I'll make is the whole thing about her enjoying a carefree life is really funny because In the previous 6 lives, she did something really, really go-getterish. She developed medicine. She was a soldier. And this life, she just said, I'm tired of that stuff. I want to just sit in a nice castle and do nothing. And Arnold's like, yeah, girl, like, you're kind of going to be a princess, so you're allowed to do that. Fascinating, though. She's just kind of excited to do nothing in this lifetime. And I really enjoy that in anime because you don't really get that a lot because they always have like this very potent passion that they're chasing or goal that they're chasing. But in this life, she's just like, I just want to like lay down. And the big mystery at the end of this is she also just gonna die in the war again this time because she's married or going to be married to the guy who starts the war. A lot of fun things going on in this anime. Honestly, I'm gonna say it's pretty good. I'm liking it. Like, gets a solid B. Just in the first few episodes, and moving forward, I think it'll be a really fun show to watch. And if you by any chance want to hear our full thoughts on Seventh Time Loop, you can check it out on our podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcasts. You know the whole deal. Links down below. Peace out, bad boys.